Welcome to the Health, Balance, Wellness channel, your haven of peace. If you suffer from diabetes, you may have wondered whether it is better to rely on drugs or to aim for a radical change in your lifestyle. This has always been a hotly debated topic. On the one hand, some people refuse the idea of taking medicines. On the other people consider lifestyle changes as something too complicated or even ineffective to cure diabetes, believing that only drugs are a real solution. Finally, a very recent study, published in 2024, has thoroughly analyzed these two alternative paths to understand not only whether they are effective, but also which of the two leads to the best results. The study involved 400 subjects, all of whom had recently been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Each of them was recommended to undertake a lifestyle change, through more physical activity and a balanced diet. However, the participants were then divided into three main groups. The first group was given a well-known anti-diabetic drug, metformin. This drug works by reducing the production of glucose in the liver and, in addition, has a positive effect on appetite, helping to lose weight. The second group was assigned a different drug, which instead acts at the renal level, promoting the elimination of glucose through urine. Finally, the third group was not given any drugs, but was asked to follow a 5-halves intermittent fasting schedule. In practice, 2 days a week, alternating, typically Tuesday and Thursday, the participants ate an extremely restricted diet, replacing the main meal with smoothies and consuming very little fruit and vegetables, reaching a maximum caloric intake of 500 to 600 calories. During the other days, they ate a more normal diet, although dinner was still replaced by a smoothie and vegetables or fruit. The experimental program lasted 4 months, and the results were encouraging for all groups. However, those who had adopted the intermittent fasting regimen achieved much more significant improvements than the others. Specifically, in the drug-treated groups, the average weight loss was about 5 to 6 kilos in 4 months. In the intermittent fasting group, however, participants lost an average of 10 kilos, a significantly higher result. In addition to body weight, other key parameters such as body mass index, BMI, and waist circumference improved. These improvements were also seen in the drug groups, but in the intermittent fasting group the improvement was about double. Another very important indicator for those with diabetes is the level of glycated hemoglobin, a value that reflects the amount of sugars bound to red blood cells in the blood. Here too, those who followed intermittent fasting showed much better results. In the metformin group, 55% of patients achieved complete diabetes remission, glycated hemoglobin levels less than 6.5%. With the second drug, the percentage rose to 60%. But it was the intermittent fasting group that was the most surprising. Here, up to 80% of participants saw complete remission of their diabetes. The researchers wanted to see if these benefits would last over time. So they ran new tests 2 months after the end of treatment. It turned out that in the intermittent fasting group, 77% of patients still maintained glycated hemoglobin values below 6.5%. This means that, technically, most of them were no longer diabetic. This result is even more significant when compared to other previous studies. In fact, in similar research, remission rates ranged between 20% and 30%. Why did this study achieve such remarkable results? Probably because the diet adopted was particularly low in calories and led to significant weight loss. Ultimately, the key is right there. Regardless of the method used, drug or intermittent fasting, the real change occurs when you manage to modify your metabolism, burning the excess fat that surrounds the liver and pancreas, crucial organs for managing glucose. Another important factor is consistency. The more participants followed the suggested protocol, the better the results obtained. Fortunately, intermittent fasting doesn't require a huge amount of effort. Just 2 days a week with very low calorie intake can produce dramatic effects. Going from a 2,000 calorie diet to a 500 calorie diet for 2 days can help you lose weight effectively and get closer to diabetes remission. Of course, it is essential not to act alone. Before starting an intermittent fast or drastically changing your diet, you should consult a doctor or a qualified nutritionist. This is because, as with any therapeutic intervention, there may be side effects to be aware of and managed. For example, 45% of participants in all groups experienced episodes of hypoglycemia, which is when blood sugar levels are too low. Hypoglycemia can cause symptoms such as dizziness, weakness, nausea, or even fainting, so it is important to monitor the situation carefully and seek medical support. Another common side effect, but more specific to those taking metformin, was gastrointestinal disturbances, bloating, abdominal cramps, or diarrhea. In the intermittent fasting group, however, these side effects were much rarer. Another question that the researchers asked themselves concerns the origin of the improvements observed. Do these improvements depend only on eating less, or is there also a real change in metabolism? The answer seems to lean toward the second hypothesis. Not only were improvements recorded in fasting blood sugar, but also in blood pressure and triglyceride levels, key indicators of metabolism and insulin sensitivity. This suggests that intermittent fasting does more than just cause weight loss. It can actually reboot your metabolism, promoting better liver and muscle function, improving insulin response, and breaking down insulin resistance. Of course, we must be realistic. The study analyzed a relatively short period, 4 months of intervention plus 2 months of follow-up. If after this period one were to return to bad eating habits, the diabetes problems would recur. It is therefore essential not to consider intermittent fasting as a quick fix, but as a starting point for a lasting change in lifestyle. For those who wish to take this path, it is important to be followed by health specialists, who can propose a personalized nutritional plan and monitor the progress of clinical parameters. Furthermore, long-term success depends on 2 key elements: a healthy, balanced diet and consistent physical activity. In summary, 5-halves intermittent fasting is shown to be an effective, natural, and sustainable strategy for achieving type 2 diabetes remission, with superior results compared to the exclusive use of drugs. However, it should always be accompanied by adequate medical assistance to avoid risks and maximize benefits. If you are interested in this alternative, talk to your doctor or nutritionist, evaluating together the path that is best for you. Remember, medication has its role, but conscious lifestyle changes can do even more, leading you to live a diabetes-free life. This video is for informational purposes only and is not intended to replace medical advice. If you like our videos, remember to subscribe to the channel, like and activate the bell so you don't miss the next videos. See you soon.